Hey folks, this is Kalani. I've got something interesting for you today, something somewhat hidden in the Legion beta. Now, a few interface options were changed or removed from the options menu, but some of them you can still change and play with. You just have to be a little bit sneaky. Well, some chaps found even more options which you can interact with which aren't in the options menu at all. One of these is the action camera. This new camera mode changes how the camera behaves both to you and your current target. The result is a camera which tries to follow the action happening on screen, hence action camera. It takes a bit of getting used to, coming from a totally static camera, but it certainly spices up questing and gives you a new perspective when stomping through the leveling zones. Bear in mind that this is a beta feature which isn't even in the options. To play about with this, you need to activate it via console command, meaning it probably isn't on the official books for testing. That means this feature could be incomplete or not something the team is planning to ship with Legion. It might come later and might look significantly different, or we might not see the action camera in live at all. Be that as it may, I think it's a cool enough feature to show off. So the immediately obvious change comes when you zoom in close to your character. Instead of the camera being directly behind you, it's offset slightly and it's on a bit of an angle. It reminds me of typical third-person action game cameras which aren't quite over the shoulder. The angle of the camera adds a bit of depth to your character too, allowing you to see a tiny bit of the side for a change. It also gives more depth to the world around you and feels much more cinematic when compared to the normal camera. It definitely shows off the scenery a lot better. With this in mind, I wanted to show some of the most iconic views and see what they would look like through the action cam, especially places with a grand sense of scale. Let's start with Dalaran, our all-turned new hub for this expansion. Being down at ground level with the camera definitely makes things look bigger. The buildings are quite grand, and the action cam makes the entire area look gorgeous with the UI turned off. Following by the side of your character feels more like a personal experience, almost first person without having to be right up in your character's face. It's a nice change of pace, especially for anyone roleplay inclined. Stormwind is similarly beautiful, as it always has been, but from ground level looking up, you can appreciate the amount of work put into creating the greatest city of Azeroth. On the Horde side, we have Orgrimmar, which looks daunting from all the way down here. The massive spikes, which are typical of Orc structures, loom overhead, and all in all, the action camera can give you some really nice views, which is cool and dandy, but is this camera actually useful without the UI turned off? Questing would be the first port of call. If you can't quest with the action cam on, then I doubt you'll like it anywhere else, because questing has the least attention requirement, and you won't be moving around anywhere near as much as dungeons, raids, or PvP. And it sort of works. It makes things a little interesting as your targets move around, but I don't really like being so close to your character when actually trying to do something. The nice thing is that the action cam still works while you are scrolled out. The focus on your target is much more apparent when you're not hugging your character's butt, and can actually be really useful. It's also a cool change to actually look up and be able to see large quest givers instead of just clicking on and talking to their feet. Something I repeated several times was stalking around my targets on my druid in stealth. It was like hunting unsuspecting prey from the sidelines, so there's maybe some roleplay potential with how the cameras react to your movements. If you like how the action camera looks either close up or zoomed out, you won't be hurting anyone by turning it on for questing. But how about something a bit more fast-paced? In a dungeon or raid, you can be expected to change target quite rapidly, as well as pay attention to everything around your character. That means your character's behind taking up a third of your screen isn't exactly ideal. That makes the super close-up cinematic deal a bit unpractical. Thankfully, being zoomed out still works wonders. Your camera can end up moving quite a bit depending on who you're targeting and how large their model is, because the camera will do its best to fit whatever fat monstrosity you happen to be up against into the full frame of your view. It can swing upwards to accommodate large entities or swing to the side if you tab target something further away. I like this to an extent because it shows you where your current threat is. Obviously, if you target something incorrectly, it could set you back a little bit, as your camera will potentially move away from the thing you actually want to be hitting. I also found if a lot of movement was going on, especially both myself and my target, I could easily lose where my character actually was. They're no longer sitting in the center, so they could be off to the side quite a bit. I still think having this enabled and being zoomed out might actually help some people. And healing with the action cam active is also pretty awesome at times. If you target your allies to heal them, as opposed to mouse over macros, your camera focuses on them as your target, letting you fully focus your attention onto them. You'll be able to spot easily if either of you are out of place or in a bad position. If you target the boss and use mouse over macros, at least your central focus can still be on the dangers for you instead of your party member, though I still find I can lose my location without too much effort. Hopefully that's just something we would have to get used to. When it comes to PvP, I thought I'd be getting lost all over the place too, except PvP has this nice little yellow circle around your character, so you always have a marker letting you know exactly where you are in the fray. Tracking your target also proves quite useful, though again I would avoid zooming in, which at this point probably defeats half the purpose of the action camera. Being able to clearly see where important targets are, either friend or foe, makes it a lot easier to track where flags or orbs are being carried, as well as which members of your team need extra attention and care. The only problem I had with PvP is everyone loves to jump and move around so much that sometimes the camera doesn't quite know what to do, leaving you a little dizzy and wondering why you're on the floor instead of storm striking everyone around you. But that's just a brief overview of what this tool can do. I'm sure with time people will figure out every little trick and exploit it to their full advantage. Just remember that this isn't an official feature for Legion yet. We might not see it come launch or even any time afterwards, but I feel that it would be too much of a disappointment now that we've found it. Hopefully it's even better when we get a real, polished version. And that's it for this video. If you have any questions or queries, leave them down in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to see anything specific from the Legion beta, leave that down there as well and I'll do my best. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.